Hey everyone, Johnny here from over at Harvey Goodman Realtor with my guest today, Scott Connors, also from Harvey Goodman Realtor.
Hey Johnny, and hi everyone.
Hey. So today, if you are just now joining us, we are going to be talking about how to start a career in real estate, possibly a little bit of real estate investing if we have enough time for it. As always, you can ask us any question by typing in to the comments section. We are live on Facebook, Twitter, on Instagram, YouTube, Twitch, you name it, we're live right now. We'd love to hear from you, and so I guess we'll get off and started. First segment I usually like to talk about is last week's listing activity. We have a total of 36 new listings through the Ohio Valley that are currently live. So if it's something that you are actively looking to buy or have questions on how to enter the market, feel free. But the market is always changing, and we'd love to help get you started. So real estate's career. Where do we go from here? Any advice as far as how to get started and then maybe as to why?
One of my favorite topics, and I think we ask ourselves why almost every day, don't we?
Oh, jeez. I had a lot more hair. This is why the hat's on today.
Yeah, that's all right. I have a lot more in the back than it's got a little mullet happening here. No, so I get asked all the time about real estate careers, and I love to talk about it. First of all, I think Johnny would agree with me. We love what we do. I feel like I was made for this job. Every day is different. Can't see myself doing anything else. Just love it.
No, and if you do what you love, you never work a day in your life.
Exactly. It's great advice. So getting started, the broad strokes are you take some classes. Typically, it takes a couple months to get through the classes. A lot of providers are offering them online now. Once you finish the classes, you take a test, and congratulations, you're a real estate agent.
So the specifics about that, as far as even getting started, where to take the classes and what kind of classes, because it does differ from state to state.
It does. So in Ohio, you're required to take 120 hours of classes to get your license or to sit for the test. In West Virginia, it's 90 hours. And each state offers reciprocity to the others. So if you have one license, after a year, it's easy to get the other license. You don't have to take the entire course load.
Yeah, you just take the law section as far as...
Correct, right.
Sure.
So you take one class, basically, and part of the test, and you end up with both licenses. Which, living where we do, it only makes sense to have both licenses.
It's a necessity. If you're going to be a successful, and to really take this as a career, not just something that... There's some agents that are part-time, which is not to knock on that, but if you're going to be servicing your clients to a full level... how many buyers do we get every day that says, I want to buy on either side, Wheeling or Martins Ferry, right? It doesn't matter.
Yep.
It's just, and if you don't have that, it becomes a problem.
Yeah, it makes no sense to limit yourself.
Sure.
So as far as course providers, there are several in both states. The most common providers in Ohio, Hondros College, which is based in Columbus. I like to refer to them as sort of a mill for real estate agents. You go in one end and you come out a real estate agent. They offer in-person classes and online classes. I've taken my share of classes at Hondros. I actually took part of my original licensing there, and then I got my broker's license in Ohio back in 2018, and I took my broker classes there as well.
Sure.
In West Virginia, the biggest school is the Spruce School of Real Estate based in Charleston. They also have online courses now as well as in person. I did, to sound like an old guy, I did my my West Virginia reciprocity class, the one class I had to take, by correspondence back in 2010. It's like we didn't have the internet then, apparently, because they mailed me a book and a test.
And you had to take it.
I had to take the test and mail it back.
When I did mine, I had to drive to Charleston, which I don't know that that's still the case anymore.
Well, I had to drive to take the test itself.
Oh, I see.
But to pass the class, the class was done by correspondence like it's 1950.
Yeah.
But that's changed now, and most people, I think, are doing the courses online. I don't personally like taking online courses. I really prefer the classroom environment, both as a student and as an instructor. I've done both, and I just like the interaction. I like being there and having conversations.
Well, I think you retain knowledge
without
when you have someone there. It's easily distracted, especially if you're at home and you got something cooking on the stove and you're trying to do this, because getting into real estate isn't necessarily the most difficult thing. No. But it is immensely difficult to survive, and a lot of the stuff that you sort of get fed, and if you don't have a good mentor, which, I don't know that I'd be in real estate if it wasn't for you right now still. But it's one of those things that you have to be able to... You can't be distracted and then be expected to go, and even if you pass, to then just be immensely successful from day one.
No, not at all. And I think you wandered into a different topic there, which is really important. What you learn in real estate class is what you need to know to pass the test
And then
to get your license.
it's
You
gone.
learn very little about what it really means to be a real estate agent. And I was certainly lucky and blessed to have multiple mentors in my life. I got to serve that role for you, and I do that for some others currently, and I love it. But it really, you need sort of the street smarts that it takes to really thrive in the business. And you don't learn that in class, whether you do it online or in person.
Certainly. So is there any real advantage that you would say for starting in either? So if someone watching this wants to start and they're thinking of, okay, I can do either Ohio or West Virginia, any real advantage that you would think?
I'm not sure it matters that much. Do you have an opinion on that?
I do.
Okay.
I would say Ohio.
Really?
Mainly because of geographical reasons. Because West Virginia, at least in our slice of the country, the northern panhandle is restricted to north and south.
That's
I
true.
mean, you have a 30-some mile maximum width before you're into Ohio or PA. And there's a lot of saturation as far as there's a lot of agents that make up. And not that it's really anything that's too concerning, but you can only do so much. You'd have to drive crazy south just to be able to go west and east. In Ohio, I feel like the geographical area, you have this larger bubble. So
And there's probably some truth to that. Anecdotally, I've not looked at the numbers on this, but it seems like more new agents come into Wheeling than they do the West Virginia market than they do the Belmont County market. So it's probably, it may be a little easier to crack into the business there.
well, the 90 credit hour versus 120, which is a pretty substantial difference, at least, but yeah, you're right. And then it's something that if you take the West Virginia course through reciprocity, then you kind of offset that extra workload that you would have had to take going the other way around. I can see why people would start there, but my opinion, because I started in Ohio and then branched to West Virginia. I know other people that have done vice versa, and I think I had an easier go of it because I wasn't just restricted to this specific section.
I did it your way. I did the same thing, and it may make a difference. I think the most important thing I would advise anyone getting into the business who's going to do this as a career, do one first. You should have both, but you shouldn't do both right up front.
Sure.
Save the extra coursework. There's enough to learn. There's enough energy it takes to get your feet wet and get yourself established to just focus on one market, learn the business, and then when the time comes a year later, you'll be ready to expand into the other market, whichever one you start in first.
Sure. So
yeah, I feel strong about that.
yeah, as far as teaching, I know that we were talking about. I've done some continuing education myself as a licensed continuing ed, and you've done.
I've done the
some,
same.
Yeah. So as far as continuing education, it's the other thing that a lot of people miss, that just getting your license is getting started, but we also have to continue our licenses and our mandates to maintain.
Yep.
And each state requires different things. So, for example, West Virginia is a yearly continuing license requirement, where Ohio, it's every 3 years.
Right.
So that's the other thing to consider as well, that if you jump in, take it into
Yeah, it's actually more hours in Ohio because it's 30 hours every 3 years versus 7 hours every year in West Virginia. But there is that pressure. In fact, we're coming into continuing ed season right now.
Mine is due.
Mine's done, thankfully. But this is the time of year because it's all due by, I think, the 1st of June. Is that right?
For West Virginia.
For West Virginia.
Yeah. Ohio is your birthday.
Right. But you have 3 years, so it's
That's right.
easy. You can forget about it for 2 years and 11 months,
And then cram it. Yeah.
which we don't recommend.
No.
But yeah, the continuing ed thing is important, and a good continuing ed, it helps your career. Like I've sat in some classes that were really valuable. The stuff you teach. In fact, one of my favorite stories about Johnny, we were at a continuing ed being put on by the Wheeling Board of Realtors, and no kidding, he took it over. He started asking questions, and before we were done, the instructor said, "Would you just like to come up here and teach the class?" And he did, and it was awesome.
Yeah.
He knew quite a bit more than the instructor about the content. That was about security and
Tech tips and tricks.
Yeah, the technology stuff.
So what I try to pride myself on, and I learned immensely. You're the most humble guy that I've ever met in my life. As far as internet security, which is important. I mean, so we handle the single largest financial transactions that people make in their lifetime. So, and it's not hard to, my last name, for example, can probably be skewed with an email that you would never even notice.
Sure.
So just leave out one of the A's,
Yeah.
and send it and say, hey, by the way, send me your wiring instructions for this loan amount. And someone could, send it to the Cayman Islands without even knowing it. It's gone.
We've heard these stories. I've not had it happen to me firsthand, but I've seen some shady stuff.
Well,
the scammers are relentless.
Yeah.
They never stop coming.
Every day. I get text messages, hey, can you go get me a gift card? And the thing is that, as far as, and we're getting way off topic about real estate licensing, but, Yeah, it's just one of those things that you have to be cognizant of, and they don't really teach you that. As far as like, no one taught me that as far as to be prepared for it and how you can fall for it.
Yeah,
so.
they don't. I wish there was more education on that.
Mm-hmm. So, anything else as far as licensing or anything that you would think is, maybe interviewing with a brokerage, or want to talk on that for a bit?
So I have conversations all the time about with people who are thinking about getting into the business and what it looks like. We talk through the technical, the logistics of getting the license, taking the courses. Mm-hmm. I'm a little more interested in what happens once you have the license and how are you going to get started. And it's a tough business to crack into.
Sure.
My standard spiel, and I've seen this happen over and over again, is at 6 months, you're going to wonder why you did it. At 6 months, everybody says, this was crazy. I can't believe I wasted all this time and energy. You're working your butt off. You're not making any money. And everybody thinks about quitting around the 6-month mark. If you can push through that and get to a year, and that's a year of really working your butt off, at that point, then you can start to make some money, and you're going to say, okay, I'm starting to see it. I can tell you that, my other favorite line, little cliche, is this is the best paying hard work there is and the worst paying easy work there is.
Sure.
This is the epitome of you get out of it what you put into it. And so agents who come into the business, I think the two most important characteristics are patience and persistence.
Sure.
You have to keep hammering and keep hammering and keep hammering. And the agents who make it get that, and the ones who don't. I like to talk about, I tell agents, you should be doing open houses. When my first 2 years in the business, I did 3 open houses every Sunday for 2 years. And I find a lot of people who go I'll give them that spiel, and they'll say, well, I think I'm going to do maybe 1 this Sunday and see how it goes. They do 1, nobody shows up, they never want to do another one. My answer is do 10 and come back to me and tell me how it went. And if that didn't work, do 50.
Sure.
And if you do 50 and no one shows up, then we can talk about maybe it's not a good idea.
Sure.
I did hundreds. And, I'll share Laney Ross. Laney's maybe the most well-known and definitely the most successful real estate agent in the history of the Ohio Valley. And he does open houses virtually every Sunday.
It's his nickname.
It's his nickname. He has built his career on it. And so for a new agent to come into the business to tell me that it doesn't work.
I mean, to be successful, you usually just mimic what successful people do.
Exactly. But the bigger idea is that we do a lot of things, a lot of different marketing efforts that don't work. Or they don't work initially. And so I might send out, 200 letters to a neighborhood or to a city to try to, look for new business, and it doesn't work. Well, if 200 doesn't work, try 2,000. And if that doesn't work, maybe it's 5,000.
Sure.
But I see a lot of people who make an effort like that, whatever the thing is, they're new in the business, they tried, they don't get that immediate feedback, and they move on.
Yeah, it's easily deflating as far as if you get a deal that goes under contract, it's we're getting further off topic, but how difficult things can be to close. The value of us as agents, and just for even people that are watching, maybe not even considering, but just listening, when I do my job well, you won't even know that I've done anything at all.
Agreed.
I mean, it's you only understand the wealth of water when the well runs dry. You only understand the wealth of your knowledge agent when something comes up that only they can really solve. And you want to have someone that can look at these kind of things from all different angles and to know the contacts. I don't need to know how to solve the problem. I just need to know someone who knows someone how to solve the problem.
And we do this all the time. We're both pretty experienced at this point, and we get into deals all the time where there's a question. Yesterday, we're talking about what do you do here, what do you do there, but that knowledge base, being able to bounce it off other agents. Someone out there doing this on their own, they have no idea the conversations we're having and the different elements in play, and also sometimes the things we do, like you said, that are never seen, but they turn into somebody selling or buying the house that they really wanted and getting the best deal they possibly could.
Yeah, I mean, it's you kind of want things. I guess I don't want to say want to, but the recognition that comes from the hard work, because it's like when a deal goes smooth, it's not because it was just, hey, I sat back and kicked my legs up on this desk and just let everybody else do something. It's because we're calling people 24/7. My phone goes off. I mean, I had to turn on silent, but I had 9 missed messages already.
Yeah.
It's it's a roller coaster. So it's one of those things that, if you're thinking of getting into the career, it's a lot of upfront work. It's grinding. It's getting out there and making those impactful things, the open houses or anything that gets that underneath your feet.
Yep.
And if you're not prepared to do that, then it's very hard to survive.
It's going to be tough. Patience and persistence. You have to be patient and wait for it to come to you, and you have to be persistent with never taking your foot off the gas. And even now, I'm 13 years into my career. You're what, about 11, 10 years? 2012
is when this would be 10 years in November.
So it's your 10-year anniversary. And we still talk about how we got to keep our foot on the gas. You can't get complacent. We're constantly trying new ideas. What we're doing right here is a new idea,
Well,
right?
the best way that I've always described my job is I have to find employment every day.
Yeah.
Every single day I have to find someone that, and again, I'm not going and looking and pushy. I kind of like to tote myself as like the least pushy agent, and I'm all of that from you.
Yeah, I use that same line. I tell my clients I'm the least high pressure guy you'll ever meet in your life.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean I don't care. Doesn't mean I don't want to do your deal, but I'm not going to push you.
Pure consultation
Right.
is okay. You tell me your goals. Here's my pathway of what I think that would make your goals successful. But if you came in and said I want to offer half off of this asking price, if I honestly knew that secret, we probably never met because I would have bought it for you. Hey, we can't influence that kind of stuff any more than the weather. But again, there's a lot of things that we do offer as far as, and again, if you're thinking of a new agent or getting a career, we'd love to hear from you just about your goals and even how to get you started.
We're always looking for new agents. There are a lot of agents in the market, but there's always room for someone who's high character, high quality, good work ethic, smart, willing to learn, coachable is really important. We stand on the shoulders of giants, right? And so we'd be foolish not to look at what they did. I mentioned Laney, and Laney's one of the he is the most successful agent in the history of the market.
Sure.
We'd be foolish not to learn from him. But if we're not coachable, if we come into this thinking we know how to do it, you're going to struggle.
Sure.
The agents who can kind of find that balance of bring your own ideas, bring your own energy, your own work ethic, and then look at what everybody else is doing and learn from it, add to it. We call the R&D department, right? Rip off and deploy, rip off and duplicate.
Yeah.
And so that is part of what it takes to make in the business. But you've got to have a long view. This is not an immediate gratification type of business. I also like to say, the day you get your license, if you put something under contract the first day, which you won't do,
sure,
you'll get a paycheck 6 weeks later, and you'll have spent it 3 times by then.
Sure.
And you're going to turn around and say, what the heck did I do all that work for? But keep your foot on the gas, be patient, be persistent, and it can turn into a tremendous living.
Takes 5 years to become an overnight success.
That's
10 years.
That's exactly right. We worked for 5 years to become an overnight success.
Sure.
And here's the other thing. I love, and I know you do too, I love teaching. I love mentoring. I was, when I got into the business, I was fed, I was given a huge hand up by a lot of different people. It's a privilege now to pass that on. And so someone new coming in, you're on an island in a way because this is a sink or swim business. Sure. But we are here to help.
That's right.
And we pride ourselves on our brokerage, on our team, that we want everyone to be successful. And it's a commitment that was passed. It's been passed through generations. Here at the company, to me, to you, that we want nothing more than somebody come in, put the work in, and turn them into the next multi-million-dollar agent.
I feel like I'm in that seat now.
Exactly.
Which is part of this podcast. It's just the nature of how that grows.
It really
grows outwards. So,
it really is.
Yeah. So as far as anything is getting started in a career, do you have any other formal advice or?
So you want to be with a good brokerage. That's important. Obviously, we're biased with how we do things here. I knew from the beginning I wanted to be with the largest brokerage. Harvey Goodman is by far the largest brokerage in the valley. The most agents, the most offices, and so on. Some people don't like that environment. They feel like they want sort of the smaller shop. I think if you're going to be sort of part-time and you're looking to make a supplemental income or even just a small income, and by small income I mean $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 a year, you may do better in that small brokerage. That was never me. I wanted to hit a grand slam, and I thought to do that, I wanted to be with the biggest, the most powerful. The resources we have available are like nothing else, and our company really rewards those high producers. Our compensation plan is set up that way. That we want everybody making 6 figures. Sure. And if you're not, we want to help you get there.
That's right.
So that was my take. Different brokerages though have different feels, and there are sort of the still a couple of the old school traditional small time shops that maybe aren't using technology quite as much, or aren't pushing quite as hard. That's not who I am, and that's not who our brokerage is. We want everyone to be a smash success.
Well, the leading edge is kind of the thing, which I think you and I specifically have kind of that grasp. But yeah, you're right. It's something that, because I've been at different brokerages. I know that you've started here and you've only been here, but I've kind of had that background where I've seen. And yeah, I kind of felt more comfortable as far as coming to this side of the fence for those exact reasons. More of a... I felt more of a...
I mean, I don't mind telling a little bit of your story. You were, what, a year and a half or 2 years at the other brokerage?
About a year in, maybe a year and a quarter, somewhere right around there.
And you weren't really setting the world on fire.
Yeah.
We got you here, gave you some tools, and you just took off like a rocket.
Sure.
So, I credit that to you, to your
Well,
work ethic and your ability, but with the tools, a combination of the tools we gave you, and
that's right. Without it, it's one of those things that, yeah, you can have all the work ethic in the world, but without some of the tools, how good is a mechanic without a wrench in their hand?
Exactly.
You can't just, rip a tire off the car. You have to have some type of leverage. So, yeah, it's just one of those things that, again, you really have to be cognizant of. And people getting their feet wet. Okay, I'm going to go pass my core classes. I'm going to go get my license. But you have to interview with a broker. Well, if you've never even thought about, if you're just now thinking about a career in real estate, you don't even know what questions to ask the broker. Of course, you can Google and see what
Sure.
people would say, but until you're actually in that live seat, until you actually know what's happening, it's almost like the buyer effect, where someone just calls the name on the sign and they just go with the first thing that they see.
Right.
There's so many other moving parts and things to consider, and that is, a pay scale is one thing to consider, which is where the focus tends to be, primarily, but if you don't have the tools to be successful, it doesn't matter what the pay scale is.
But see, here's a question I think every new agent should ask a brokerage if they're interviewing. Number one, who in the brokerage is successful? How many people do you have? Define success for yourself, right? I
Sure.
want to make, say, $100,000 a year.
Sure.
And then ask them, how many of your people are doing that? Now, in some brokerages, the broker is making a ton of money, and all the agents below them are not.
Sure.
And so if I'm a new agent coming in, I'm thinking, okay, do I want to come here where, there's a lot of money at the top, the guy whose name is on the signs getting everything, and he's not really passing it down? That's a real consideration. This brokerage has 10 agents, and no one's broken 50K. Or do I go to a different brokerage where maybe they've got half a dozen people that are in the income range that I want to be in?
Sure.
And that for me, that's what it was too. When I interviewed at Harvey Goodman, I looked at who was successful and what they had done, and I thought, well, that's what I want to do. And so it was a no-brainer. Why would I go to a brokerage where no one's really at that level of success, thinking I could be the first one, or go to the brokerage where it's proven and everyone's making money, and I just want to be one of them?
Sure.
And so that was my approach, and I think that's important. Now, again, the downside is you're in a big office, and you may not get one-on-one attention all the time. But you come in our office, there's activity. The phone's ringing. I remember you talking about at your other brokerage, you were vacuuming the floor because there was nothing happening.
Yeah, floor time wise, and yep.
And here, that's just not the case. There's always activity. People are in and out. Agents are talking. Phones ringing. Website traffic is through the roof. And then to add to that, at our brokerage, we're always trying to get better anyway. We're right now doing a massive investment into raising our profile on social media, our website traffic, what we're doing with those leads. I've got a call at 2:00 today that's along these lines. That even at the level of success that Harvey Goodman has as the #1 brokerage in the Ohio Valley, we're still trying to improve and trying to get better. We I don't know if you know this, we had a record year last year.
Yeah, no, I do.
So it's huge.
Yeah, and the convention, Tim is putting that back. As
I
far
love
as,
that, yeah.
and that's open to the public now. As far as
Is that what we're gonna do?
I
I didn't
believe
know
so. Tim, can you hear us? This is our producer, Tim.
He's off camera.
Is he off camera? I don't know if he can hear us or not. He might have went back to his office, but
Right.
yeah, it's something. We're trying to put that back out there. As far as you're right. So again, if you're thinking of a career, we'd love to just talk to you about how to get that started.
We would. And by the way, those conversations are always confidential. We know career changes can be tough, and no one ever has to think that they talk to one of us about a career change in real estate and their current employer is going to find out about it.
Sure.
We would never do that.
Well, I would hope that their employer wouldn't be, I guess depending on,
It gets,
but yeah, if you want
it gets tricky sometimes if they think you're looking for another gig.
Yeah, but
we respect that.
Well, we talked a little bit about how to get started in real estate, and then the other part of this, we don't have to beat up too much about it. We've been on
Sure.
about 24 minutes now. Real estate investing, which I kind of think goes in hand. So you might want to. It's real estate career related, but not necessarily licensing related.
Sure.
We work with investor clients from all over, whether it's residential, commercial, and there's a lot of terms we can go into: ROI, NOI, cap rate, GRM, all these things that you really should know, but you want to talk about a little bit of what it's like investing in our area and how to get started?
So I think, first of all, it's a natural extension of being a real estate agent. Number one, we're in this world. We see the listings come up. We see what other investors are doing that's successful. So it's a natural extension of just being in the business. You don't have to be. And like you said, we have clients. I've got multiple investor clients. But a lot of people who end up getting licensed eventually dip their toe in the water of investment property. I did the same thing. I waited a long time. I was 7 or 8 years into my career before I bought my first investment property. I've become much more active since then. I'm growing a portfolio. So as an agent, I love helping investor clients because it's sort of a, when you're helping a first-time buyer buy the home they're going to live in, that's a different feel
Sure.
than if you've got an investor who's maybe a little more aggressive in negotiating and things are a little more, rough and tumble.
We get to really shine.
At times we do, and it's a lot of fun. And also, being an investor myself, I get to share my experience. One thing I found is that every investor seems to have their own angle. I like multifamily properties for myself. I really do. A lot of investors like single family. They'll go buy something, fix it up, and flip it. I don't typically do that. I typically buy stuff and hold it. But everyone kind of finds their niche.
Sure.
And when I'm with an investor and I help them sort of establish that niche, it is fun. You help them go find a deal, and they're making money off the deal. It's great.
Sure. So yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, there's no two properties ever the same, never two buyers certainly ever the same. Even if it's for that, two buyers for the same property are going to be completely different of what they see and how they want to do something with it. And it differs dramatically between even different types of things, like for foreclosure. If you want to buy to flip, well, let's talk about the cost of inflated construction material and how that looks as far as your goals. There's all these different angles that you really need to know and think about. And getting started into real estate investing isn't necessarily the hardest thing.
No, it's not.
Buying a duplex and charging rent. I mean, it can be that simple, but you really want someone behind the scenes as far as that has done this. You own your investments. I have mine. And to know firsthand of what to not do.
Right.
It's easy enough to go get a loan and to get this and say, okay, my monthly payment's that. I need to make X amount of dollars per month to make this work, and plain and simple.
But I think a mistake a lot of new investors do is they run the numbers based on the best case scenario.
Yeah.
Well, here's a duplex, and they're getting $500 a month per side, and I think I can get $700 a month per side. Well, so at that's $1,400. If I could buy it for this and get $1,400, that's great. That's great money. Well, the problem is you might get $700 per side.
Sure.
And you're going to be vacant at some point, so you're never going to have
90%
a full
vacant,
100% occupancy, at least not forever. And so you take a year where maybe you've got a couple months empty, and you're a little bit lower rent than you thought, and suddenly that best case scenario that you put on paper doesn't happen.
And then the furnace breaks.
Right? And so it can go south quickly. So part of our job is to help advise that, say, well, here's some factors you want to think about. I've got a spreadsheet, I know you do too.
Sure.
To plug in some numbers on what investment properties look like. One of the best maxims in investment property is you make your profit, especially if you're flipping, you make your profit when you buy it.
Sure.
Not when you sell it. So if you buy something for a discount of 15 or 20%, then there's something to work with. If you overpay initially, you're going to be in trouble.
Sure.
It's very tough to overpay, put money into it, and then get someone else to overpay you. You make your money when you buy it. And again, our job as agents when we're working with investor clients is to help find those deals for them.
Sure. So as far as any advice on getting started or anything to look out for, as far as, I guess my advice is it's kind of hard to just generalize that, because I always say when I meet with someone, especially an investor, what are your goals?
That's it. What are your goals? What's your niche? I always try to find that. I find some people, they want like the easy flips. They want to put carpet and paint in, and that's it. And it's like their price range. They want to buy for say $30,000, put 10 in, sell it for 65 or 70.
Which it's kind of tough.
It's tough, but that's their idea. Other people are more than happy to spend 150, put 50 or 75 in, and try to get 300 out of it.
Sure.
Some people would never touch something with a foundation problem or that needs a roof or a furnace. So it's a matter of kind of feeling my way through it with the investor as to what. One thing I like to say is, based on what you like, you need to find a property that has the right things wrong with it.
Sure.
Right. So if for me, and again, I don't really flip anything, but if I did, I'm not afraid of. You can write a check and get a roof put on. You can write a check and get a furnace put in. I probably wouldn't want a foundation problem. I have found with my own investor clients that anything with a strange layout is very tough to flip.
Sure.
And I've had really good investors that do really good work, but if the house is weird, it sits and it's tough to sell. So I'm going to be very careful about that. We also offer this service all the time with someone who's thinking about a flip, and they say, "Look, I can buy this for $50K." My job is to tell them what it could be worth when it's done, right?
Sure.
So look, the ceiling on this property is $90,000. I don't
Sure.
care what you do to it, you're not going to get more than $90,000 out of it.
Yeah, there's specific areas that limit.
Yeah, and we tell them that before they buy it, so that now, as they're going through the process of fixing it up, they can keep that budget in mind. And if you bring it back to me to 120, I'm not going to be able to sell it for you.
That's
or
right.
you're going to take a loss on it.
Yeah, and the other side of that is we get a lot of, at least I do. I don't know if you've seen it or not, but buyers that are interested in these obscure kind of sales that we usually our sales are what we would refer to as arm's length transactions.
Sure.
There's a whole bunch of different ways to buy cheap property. I mean, you can go through the foreclosure route, which comes with its own risks as far as like non-disclosure and those kind of things. Sheriff sales, tax sales. And there are specific things like even auctions that you can attend online, buying something sight unseen. But what they kind of put in the fine print, what a lot of people miss, and I've had this happen, is anything associated with a debt tied to that property, whether it's a water bill, whether it is a judgment, whether it's something that if it's specifically tied to that house, yeah, you might find a good deal, but for the purchase price. But did you just buy someone else's absurd debts that,
right.
And it unfortunately that has happened. Maybe we'll get a title attorney to talk about that more specifically in a later episode. But that's really why you should at least talk. Give us a call as far as consultation, so you don't make that simple mistake. And it takes a text message.
Yeah, it's what we're here for. And I know you would feel the same way. I'd much rather have that conversation way up front, even if I'm not involved in the purchase.
That's right.
I want to be the listing agent when it's done, so I want to give you the advice that you need so that we can both get it, get to where we want to get to with getting it sold.
If I'm willing to work this hard to help ensure your success, imagine what I'm going to do for you, once you actually hire me.
That's exactly right.
So that's really the kind of the goal.
And the most important thing working with investor clients is that we all want to make money. And, I have a vested interest in, if you're going to be an ongoing investor,
That's
buying
right.
and selling, I want to make sure you make money on every deal because you're going to keep using me. And so it really is a partnership, maybe more so than some of the other clients we have.
We have some. In fact, I need to get, anyways.
Yeah, I mean, I've got investors I've sold dozens of properties
That's
with, and I want them making money on every deal. And as long as I can help guide that and steer that, we're going to keep the whole business together.
Sure. Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned because I feel the exact same way. In fact, I tell most of my investor clients, it's same thing. It's kind of
it's good stuff.
All right. Well, I think it's probably a good time to end the stream here. I mean, do you have any other insight or things that you want to say for?
No, I appreciate that you had me on. I appreciate you doing this. You guys don't realize the effort Johnny puts into making all this happen. So we're excited about that. I'm glad to be here. Hope you invite me back someday.
Yeah, we certainly will. All right, guys. Well, thank you for watching. If you have any questions, feel free to message us directly on any of our channels. I'm Johnny from Harvey Goodman. Scott Connors from Harvey Goodman signing off. Have a great day.
Take care.